Hello everyone, and welcome back to our cozy little channel here. I'm your host, as I always am, Doodleman149, and welcome back to another video in my viewer variant series. In this series, I take weapon builds suggested by the viewers in their comments and try them out in Core Domination, Ground War, and Warzone. This is how I've decided to rate these builds I receive. There isn't really a failure point, but there is essentially a disappointment zone. So, in today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at a build from a viewer we've never seen before, TZAV.GAMING. He suggested a Striker 45 build in what he would call the HR UMP 45 style. Now, I'm not sure if he's talking about the UMP 45 in a previous Call of Duty, but if you're looking for a great Battlefield 4 inspired UMP 45 build, check out the video in the top right corner of your screen, or check out the link in the description below this video. But without pushing this off any further, let's look at this Battlefield Engineer class. For this UMP 45 build, TZAV starts off in the laser section with a TAC laser for boosted ADS speed and stability. The Viper Reflex optic is next for a slight zoom and a nice precise sight window. The FTAC 60 series grip offers increased recoil control at the cost of stability. The 45 round magazines increase our base ammo by 80% while costing us mobility. This build is then rounded off by the streamlined Commando foregrip for recoil and aiming stabilization at the cost of movement speed. The Strella P is a dumbfired, single-fired rocket launcher with the fastest rocket velocity and best accuracy. The rate of fire is rather slow, being the slowest in the rocket launcher category. Its explosive yield is small, but the power behind it is great. For our perks, we have EOD for our first perk, allowing us to survive all manner of explosives more easily. Point Man is our second perk and is my preferred second perk. It allows us to earn kill streaks through gaining points instead of strictly being based on kills, useful for objective game modes. Shrapnel is our third perk, which allows us to carry 2 pieces of lethal equipment instead of just 1. Our tactical is a stim shot, and for our lethal we have proximity mines. This class is honestly a mixed bag when it comes to core domination. I'll start off with the good. The Striker build is pretty solid. The TAC laser does the most to keep this build snappy, while the Commando foregrip is a solid choice to even out our recoil without an ADS speed penalty. Combining that with the 60 series grip, and it's that great balance of vertical and horizontal recoil mitigation that I always go on about. I love the Viper Reflex sight, and the 45 round mags only occasionally came into play for me. I typically have time to reload before each engagement anyway, but there were a few times where those extra bullets came in handy. The proximity mines combined with shrapnel really helped hold objectives, especially when placed right on the flag. They fit perfectly in the base, so you can't even see them sitting there. EOD worked great when holding objectives, or when I get a little too close to my own bouncing betties. Point Man, now my favorite perk, is also a great choice for this objective game mode. Stims worked for me once. Now moving to the Strella. This rocket is honestly terrible for core domination. Its reload is by far the slowest in the game, and this class doesn't have amped. The Strella must have been nerfed for a while now because it's no longer as pinpoint accurate as it used to be. And honestly, the explosive yield of this weapon was never great, making it a far better anti-vehicle weapon. Aside from firing twice at kill streaks, this launcher is the worst for core domination. For core domination, TZAV's HR UMP 45 class gets itself a 5 out of 10. When it comes to recreating that slower paced gameplay of Battlefield 4 that this build is going for, this class hits it right on the head. Now keep in mind, that isn't entirely a good thing. Modern Warfare is a far faster TTK than Battlefield 4, something I was reminded of since I've been playing a lot of it lately in preparation for Battlefield 2042. Because of this, the Strella is still painfully slow. Admittedly, this is the launcher I prefer to run in Ground War anyways, so I can't take too many points away from this class, but the fact that it's just has a stupid slow reload and only 2 rockets means that actually fighting vehicles like a BF4 engineer is simply out of the question. The dual proximity mines can certainly help in this regard, but again, unlike Battlefield 4, you only get 2 of these and they disappear once you respawn, so they're less effective at holding objectives for long periods of time. The Striker is still solid for closer range fights, and given its great base range values, this rarely becomes an issue. EOD is great because it helps counter the many explosives you'll face during Ground War, and the higher opportunities to play the objective really make Point Man stand out in this mode. For Ground War, this Striker 45 build earns itself a 5 out of 10. This is going to be an oddly short segment when talking about this class in Warzone, mostly because most of my thoughts have already been said. The Strella is just awful here. Since you primarily fight infantry, it's less effective right out the gate, but there is the slight bonus of being able to hold way more rockets than the other modes, but chances are you won't get to use them anyway. The Striker has never been super effective for me in Warzone, and that continues here. The only saving grace for this build is the 45 round magazines for factoring in armor. Proximity mines, EOD, and shrapnel are all good for camping, while point man is only useful in very niche situations. This Striker 45 racks up a 4 out of 10 for Warzone and Plunder. Unfortunately, I found this to be another mediocre TZAV class. This version of the UMP-45 works well enough in core domination and ground war, but the armor factor of Warzone does this weapon no favors. Proximity mines are a fun change of pace for a lethal, but I'll always be annoyed by the fact that they disappear on death. But that's the game's fault, no one else's. EOD gets more useful as I move through each rating category, and Point Man was great up until testing it in Warzone. The Strella on all fronts is basically a complete disappointment, except for ground war. This weapon looks the most like a Battlefield 4 small, but it performs far worse. Its reload is abysmally slow, and they nerfed it at some point where it has a massive drop in the projectile once launched. Glad to see the Cold War RPG is still a laser beam though. For a final rating, TZAV's Battlefield Engineer class gets itself a 4 out of 10. I know this class wasn't optimized for this game. It's more of a nostalgia class, and in that regard, it worked perfectly. I'm playing more Battlefield 4 and haven't even touched Warzone in weeks, so thank you for that, TZAV. However, trying to transfer classes from other, better games into this one just doesn't work out so well because of this game's faster pace, and that's where this build falls apart. The UMP is a slower rate of fire, an average reload speed, and we all know about the lightning-fast Strella by now. Unless you have some nostalgia for Battlefield games, I wouldn't really recommend this class. It's not really optimal in any way. Oddly enough, TZAV's Rambo class is more effective in an anti-vehicle capacity than this one is. So, with that, I bid you all adieu. I'm still having fun running out this series, and while it does require me to play more Modern Warfare and Plunder, I'm feeling a lot better by not playing Warzone casually since that experience is just boring and shitty, and has been for a while now. I really appreciate all your time, and I really hope to see you all again in the next Viewer Variants video. I've been your host, Doodleman149, and until next time, I will see you later.